saw quite a bit of rust, stripe rust and a little bit of leaf rust, which we haven't seen in quite some time.
Welcome back to the Comstock channel. I'm Marlin Bohling with you, and I'm pleased to welcome aboard Aaron Harries. He is with Kansas Wheat. I guess, Aaron, is it the Kansas Wheat Commission you work with, or the wheat growers? Officially, what's your affiliation there?
Well, Kansas Wheat is both organizations, the Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. So the Wheat Commission is the wheat checkoff entity, and the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers is the trade association for wheat farmers. So I work for both of those groups.
So you wear a couple of hats there.
I do, yeah.
All right, Aaron, I wanted to talk with you because you were involved in the latest 2024 wheat tour that just wrapped up today. I know you're probably still really tired. That's a lot of hours you have to put in on the road and walking out in the fields. From what I understand, were you one of the drivers?
I was, yeah. I was one of the drivers, one of about 20 to 25 cars that drive on 6 different routes over the course of the tour.
Before we get into the details, let's talk summary. Everybody wants to know what the final results were. So I saw where the results just came in. I believe you all met in Manhattan, Kansas around the noon hour to share the data and tabulate everything. So what did we come up with for a grand total?
Well, the group puts all their predictions together and we averaged that out, and we came up with 290.4 million bushels. So 290 million bushels is still below our 5-year rolling average, about 320 million bushels. But it's certainly higher than we have had the last 2 years, especially last year when we were down close to around 200 million bushels. So while this is still a drought-stressed crop and a drought-affected crop that will be below average, it's a big step up from where we were in 2023.
You took part in the entire tour. Were you surprised at how resilient, let's say, the crop was this year?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a tip of the hat to wheat breeders out there these days that we've got good drought tolerant genetics. And I think one key difference, Marlin, is that the crop received a fairly good start in the fall of 2023, and that makes all the difference in the world. A previous couple of years we've had trouble getting the wheat emerged in the fall, and that was not the case this year. So it had a good start, and then we did get affected by the drought over the late winter and early spring. So while it's gone a little bit downhill since then, it's still a harvestable crop because it did get that better start in the fall of the year.
So to come up with that total of production, what kind of acreage did you use? I didn't take time to do the math backwards here.
We ask each tour participant to kind of estimate on their own what they think the abandonment rate will be, so how much of that 7.7 million planted acres, what percentage will be abandoned. And then in their heads, they take that amount of acres times what they think the average state yield will be. So they don't give us that information. They all just give us that final number. So you kind of have to do a little backwards math and figure out what you think abandonment might be. We were at almost 30% abandoned acres in 2023, and I don't think we're going to be anywhere close to that. We're right around 5% average any given year. So you just have to determine whether you think it'll be higher or lower than that. And so that plays a key decision in what our final production will be.
Alrighty, I want to make sure and remind everybody, make sure you like this video, subscribe to it just by clicking that bell icon down below, and then share it with others as well. How far away do you think we are from the bulk of the harvest this year? Do you think it's pretty much on schedule with where it normally would be?
It's about 7 to 10 days early. I think we'll start cutting south of Wichita, or at least test cutting around the 6th of June. Maybe, depends upon the weather. They did get some more rain last night around the Wichita area, so each rain probably slows it down a little bit. But yeah, overall across the state, we're probably about 7 to 10 days ahead of schedule, and that's again due to that drought situation. So we'll see things rolling here in just a couple of weeks.
Now, I heard quite a few reports of disease pressure showing up in the wheat. I guess probably just because we have seen some moisture here lately. some kinds of rust and wheat streak mosaic and that sort of things. What did you experience on your leg of the tour when it came to the disease pressure?
On my leg of the tour, we saw quite a bit of rust, stripe rust and a little bit of leaf rust, which we haven't seen in quite some time. There were other segments of the tour that did see some wheat streak mosaic virus. Oddly enough, a lot of that is in central Kansas this year, not normally where you might expect it in the western part of the state. So that could be for any number of reasons. So rust seemed to be pretty prevalent. The question is always, are farmers going to justify the economics, justify putting fungicide applications? For some of the wheat, it's too late, according to the label directions, it's too late to put the fungicide on. So it's a race between grain fill of that wheat and the stripe rust or the rusts covering the leaves. In some ways, if you have rust, that's at least an indicator that it's been raining, right? So, it's maybe, I don't want to say a good problem to have, but it's an indication that we do at least have some moisture. Because last year, when you don't have any rain, you don't have to worry about rust either because the drought overcomes that.
Now, I know you had the opportunity at each of your stops to hear from representatives from the surrounding states, like Nebraska, Colorado, and Oklahoma. I'm curious what you heard about them.
Well, I think Nebraska is going to hold steady on their crop comparatively to what they were last year. Colorado, again, looking at similar conditions to Kansas. The northeast part of Colorado seems to be faring better. Southeast part of the state having a rough year again. I don't have the USDA numbers in front of me, but I think Colorado and Oklahoma are kind of in the same boat as Kansas. A little bit increased production over last year. It's just drought is still affecting parts of those states. It seems like maybe we're squeezing those drought conditions into maybe hopefully a smaller area. But I think we're all looking at a better crop than last year. But for the most part, still below average across the Central Plains.
I know you had a lot of millers that take place or take part in the tour. They like to see what the quality is out there. What did they find out?
Well, I think they always appreciate the variability in what they see. And, millers and bakers are, millers are looking for good test weight wheat and bakers want a high protein crop. And I think we're going to be able to make them all happy. We'll have some higher yielding, high test weight wheat that maybe is a little bit lower in protein. But with all that drought stress out there, we'll have some protein wheat out there too, that they'll like to see. So the question is whether we can get enough rain to boost those test weights a little bit. And, in a perfect world, we have some decent test weights and decent protein. And only time will tell. As the data starts rolling in from harvest, we'll get a better handle on that.
Well, Aaron, I know we have talked about burdensome world supplies. And I'm wondering, even though this report maybe came out a little better than expected, it's still fairly low. And I wondered if that's going to take a little bit of pressure off of the overall broader picture of wheat supplies that seem to be weighing on the market all the time.
Yeah, we'd like to think that Kansas is a huge player in the world wheat market, but it's not as much as it has been the last few years. So you have to turn your eyes elsewhere. And there's been a little bit of upside in the market the last few days because of weather concerns in Russia, and of course they're the big player on the world market, and it's hard to determine how relevant that data is. But on the broader picture, there probably needs to be a little bit more supply, a little bit more stability in the world wheat market. So I think overall everybody's kind of pleased to hear that we're going to have more bushels in the central United States. That takes a little bit of volatility out of the marketplace, I think, but we're still going to see a lot of ups and downs in the marketplace. There's just so many socioeconomic things going on in the world that you've got to keep your eyes in a lot of different directions.
Well, Aaron, you did yeoman's work this week. Thank you for everything you guys do and for helping to put on that tour. I know it's a big job, and I appreciate everything you did. So best luck on the harvest season. I hope everybody stays safe out there, and let's bring this crop in good shape, and we'll see if we can get the markets to cooperate. That's Aaron Harries. He is with the Kansas Wheat Commission and the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers, And that'll do it for this episode. I thank you for joining us. For producer Brianne Hendrickson, I'm Marlin Bohling. We'll catch you next time on the Comstock channel. Thanks for joining us on our Comstock YouTube channel. Don't forget you can also find us on Facebook and TikTok as well. Futures trading involves risk. The risk of loss in trading futures and/or options is substantial, and each investor and/or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance is not indicative of future results.